Tigers and the Kansas Jayhawks.
Welcome, everybody, to the Border War podcast on the Kansas City Sports Network, presented by 360 Vodka. Happy New Year to everyone tuning in and listening in. I'm Jarrett Sutton, and I'm joined by my boy, Jeff Hawkins. Jeff, Happy New Year. Welcome back to the show. How was your New Year? How was your holiday?
It was good, man. Just got to hang out with family, kick back, watch a little basketball, watch a little football. So it was good spending time with the family, just relaxing and not thinking about anything but family. So it was always good to hang around family and do it on a holiday.
Given we're a basketball podcast, I was thinking as we were getting ready to start the show, like even when you were a player and even now you're coaching in high school, I'm scouting on the NBA front with the Pelicans. But I always look forward to the Thanksgiving holiday and the Christmas holiday because you do get a little time, more so around Christmas and New Year's, because there's a little bit of a break. You always look forward to the finals break around Christmas time, right? Because you knew. And now on the other side of that, you had to practice a lot. So there was probably 5 or 6 consecutive practice. But you knew you had probably a day off. Now they'll
4 hours too,
off.
The practices.
Yeah, that's right. It was the coach's dream during the holiday break to have a week of practice. But I always think it's kind of a nice time to kind of just take a step back a little bit. And with Kansas too, I know there's a lot to get to with both teams since we've had our last podcast, just with Kansas and everything going on right now with the Omicron variant and with COVID and impacting a lot of games. I had a Creighton Georgetown game I was going to go to that got canceled. And it just seems like games are canceling or being postponed, and probably at a bad time. I know this is obviously impacting all of society, but in the sports world, I mean, the NFL is dealing with it. The NBA is dealing with it. College basketball is dealing with it. It's just all around us. But I think it also gives you some time for Kansas. They haven't had a couple games. It does give them a little bit of a time to a little reflection, resting up, getting more self-scouting in, trying to do as much as you can. And yes, trying to get a game on your schedule, given that they had 2 get canceled, but they're able to get a couple games back, and they just pull off a win against George Mason yesterday at Allen Fieldhouse, which a great crowd on hand. Yeah. Given the weather, given the ice and the sleet, Kansas fans came out. Good win for KU as they get ready to start Big 12 play. Yeah,
you're right. I mean, you hit it from all angles. Obviously, no one wants to try to deal with this new variant with COVID-19. And it almost feels like, last year, games being canceled, people kind of holding their breath. Is there going to be a season? Is there going to be a game? So that's kind of how that new variant has shown its strength. So it's always in the back of even my mind, like what's going to happen next. So it is like that for those players and those coaches involved directly with these programs. So obviously, we hope that everybody can stay safe. And we can obviously, keep our mask up, stay social distancing, be safe, all those little small things to where we can continue the sports, because sports means so much to just so many people. And you guys can, the world could tell when we got into this pandemic and we kind of felt like we were slipping out a little bit more. Sports just was the healing for everybody. So we obviously hate that part of the game, but as most coaches know, they must continue to prepare in case nothing does happen. So that's kind of the cool thing about it. Games are still being played, and obviously the Jayhawks are coming off 2 wins, one against Nevada and George Mason. Really 2 good opponents that really tested them and gave some of their players a chance to grow in order to get into Big 12 play. So the Jayhawks are kind of rocking and rolling right now. Obviously, they have a big game coming up against Oklahoma State. That's going to be a good test for them. But
always a tough place to play too.
Always a tough place. And that's Coach Self. That's his alma mater, where he put blood, sweat, and tears on that court as well. Or for that program. So, it's going to be a lot of emotions with that game with him. And, Oklahoma State, they know they tried their best to get Coach Self to be the head coach at that program. So, they're going to try to make sure that they're prepared and they can let them know if they can, that he made a bad choice in picking KU. So, they're going to be ready and fired up to make sure that they can do anything and everything that they can to make the Jayhawks go home with the L.
Yeah. Let's talk about just where this team is at. They, like you said, they're coming off 2 wins. Good win against Nevada. They win by 27. Christian Brown plays well. I thought Jalen Wilson was really good in that game, particularly on the glass. And then most recently, the George Mason win. We've talked a couple of times on this podcast, and we really established Bill Self and just what he tries to do offensively with his 5-man. And I feel like that was a big talking point coming out of this George Mason game. Mitch Lightfoot was terrific off the bench, perfect from the field. I think he was 7 of 7.
Yeah.
Jalen Coleman Lands obviously shot the ball so well, shot the cover off of it. But when you think about the bench production, it was great. 38 points from the Kansas bench. But let's talk about Mitch Lightfoot and David McCormick right now, because obviously David's struggling. I still think, the way Coach Self, and Coach Self after the game, I think maybe use the media a little bit to fire up David in the right way, because sure. I do believe Mitch Lightfoot, as he should, and I do believe Mitch Lightfoot's earning minutes. I mean, he's playing so well for them in terms of getting on the floor, playing hard. He's always been gritty and tough. We know prison Mitch, right? Let's be honest.
For sure.
But now he's finishing. He's playing with a ton of confidence.
Yeah.
And Jeff, he just knows where to be. And he's obviously been there for 10, 12 years now. He's a seasoned vet. He's just that guy that you can depend on. So what's your takeaway right now with just that conversation of, David's been struggling, but David, I think, is still, he's a guy that's going to have to help Kansas throughout the season.
For sure. They're going to need him.
Struggling a little bit, but Mitch is giving him great minutes. I think Mitch's minutes could probably increase even more.
Yeah. This is a not a touchy situation, but I mean, it's a tricky situation. When you talk about the bigs with KU, obviously, McCormick's the starter, hasn't been producing the way that I think many believe that he's capable of producing. And when you just kind of look at it, he's not really doing it from a point standpoint as far as scoring, which a lot of Jayhawk fans, and I'm pretty sure the coaches as well too, would like to see him put the ball in the basket. Obviously, like you said, with Mitch Lightfoot going 7 for 7 from the field, really was hitting to that turnaround jumper, and McCormick's just not doing it from a scoring perspective. But the way I see it is, and I haven't talked to any coaches or anything, but the way I see it is, I mean, you look at Jalen Wilson, who at one point in time was struggling as well too. And, he's starting to kind of get out of his shell. But I think one of the things that Jalen Wilson did when he was struggling is he still went after and rebounded the ball. And I think right now for David McCormick, that's one thing that he can do. I know he didn't really get an opportunity as much against George Mason, only playing 10 minutes that game. Again, Mitch Lightfoot was just on fire and was doing some really good things. But, 4 rebounds, he's going to have to make sure that he can get active on the rebound side. And really, if you're not going to put the ball in the basket from a scoring perspective, I mean, even so many people tried to give Landon Lucas so much heat when he played about not being able to finish at the rim. But Landon Lucas took on a job. He rebounded the ball and he always guarded the team's best big and always did a great job. So, and eventually, his scoring at the rim got better because he continued to do those little things. So I think that's what David McCormick's in a situation like that, where he needs to take a mindset from, Jalen Wilson and just attack the defensive rebounds, offensive rebounds, outwork your opponent on that end of the floor, and then just be ready for the ball when it comes to you. A lot of the time, David, I think, fumbles some of the passes to where he just has to see it all the way in. Be a little bit patient, see it come to your hands, catch it, finish strong, get to your move quick or kick it out. So, but I think David, he'll get it at some point in time. Coach Self challenging him a little bit. These players are kind of glued to their phone these days, so they hear things a little bit faster than probably what we would have back in the day. Yeah. So hopefully that light a little fire under him. But if not, I think Mitch Lightfoot, I think he's always been ready for an opportunity like this, and he's always waited his turn, went in, got some sloppy minutes, did what the coach needed, and cheered. And it's always been one of the best teammates. So it's always good to see a guy like Mitch Lightfoot be able to come into a game and impact the game, and not only impact the game, but almost look like, besides Coleman Lands, hitting those threes, Mitch Lightfoot to me almost was the player of the game for the Jayhawks against George Mason.
No question. I think he really made an impact. And like you said, yeah, how are you impacting the game? There's more ways to impact the game than scoring. It just so happened that Mitch was great from the field and really gave them a spark in terms of scoring the ball. And it should be said too, we said this the last time we were together, David McCormick struggled a little bit last year at the beginning of the year, and then he got a league play and was very good. So this is just, there's ebbs and flows to every season. But let's not, forget that David McCormick was a real big impact player last year, and he is a fully capable 5-man.
Yeah, for sure.
And like you said, that size and his strength and his ability to rebound the game, I think Landon Lucas is a very good comparison in terms of Landon's impact. He changed some games just with his presence, doing other things.
Yeah.
You mentioned two guys stepping up, and I think this win for Kansas against George Mason is a very good win in terms of taking a snapshot of this team as we close, 2021 and start 2022, knowing Big 12 play is starting. And we talk about Mitch. Let's talk about Jalen Coleman Lands and his ability to shoot the ball, because Christian and Ochai struggled. And guys are going to struggle to make shots every now and then. I think Christian was 3 of 12 and Ochai was 4 of 14. So those two guys that have really been really good for you and have struggled to make shots. Now, Christian was really good passing the ball. He had 6 assists, but Jalen Coleman Lands with 5 threes and shot the ball really well. That's what he can do. And that's why he came to Kansas, is he can really stretch it and he can make shots. And I thought he really gave Kansas just as much as a lift as Mitch did in terms of making shots.
Yeah, he did. And, right before I was saying, Mitch was kind of that player of the game. Literally, like, I just kept thinking of Coleman Lands. Like, he was really a good coming out party for him as well, too. And, he shot the ball well. He took a lot of the pressure and, helped. It was in key moments of the game as well, too, because that George Mason game, and, shout out to your guy, Kim,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Shout out to your guy, Kim, man. That game by no stretch, it was a close game. The whole entire game could have went any way at any point in time. So, how momentum of a game can get. And that's how that game was. So, again, I know you're getting off script a little bit, but I know you're pretty pumped to see, Kim come into the field house and battle those boys. They came in and battled. So, well, but I think Jalen's going to, I think he is happy about hitting those threes. And if they can continue to build off of that, because they're going to need it, that's going to come in good for him.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I appreciate you bringing up Kim, because I was excited that George Mason got this game scheduled.
Yeah.
Obviously George Mason was dealing with their own, COVID protocols, and they had a couple games canceled as well. But, I do want to say this. Obviously, Kim English, a former teammate of mine, my college roommate. I was in his wedding. Unbelievable guy, unbelievable coach. Had a chance to go see George Mason practice. And I think I told you this, Jeff, when we've sat down before, like, seeing your former teammate as a head coach, and this was in practice in October, like, to see him run his own team, you kind of embrace that. There's like a moment of like,
awesome.
You're taking that in, like, man, this is a really special thing. But then, like, you start to watch practice like you watch any practice.
Yeah.
And, Kim's got an incredible ability to teach. He's got a lot of respect. He's got players that listen to him, that buy into him, play hard for him.
Yeah.
And I thought they battled. I thought they gave Kansas, a good game. The first half was a battle. Kim's really excited about some of his guys on his roster, guys that transferred in. Josh Udoro was very good for him. They got a little bit of foul trouble in the first half.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of Devontae Gaines, who was really good at 15 and 12. And this is his first year, and he's had some good wins, wins against Maryland.
Yeah.
Did go to Georgia, win at Georgia. But I'm excited about Kim English. It's his first year as a head coach.
Yeah.
And he's climbed the ladder really quick. But just to see him, he's got an unbelievable basketball pedigree and knowledge and understanding of the game. And I just have always been really impressed by his basketball knowledge. But then to see him now as a head coach, I'm so proud of the guy. But to come back, it was his I guess I think he was at Allen Fieldhouse with Tennessee. That was his first time back to Allen Fieldhouse prior to when we played in 2012. But first time as a head coach, that was a pretty meaningful day for him to go back down. And he said this before. Bill Self is one of his favorite coaches, and Allen Fieldhouse there's nothing like it. So for him to have that feeling too, I know he was really excited about that and glad they got that opportunity.
Hey, I bet. I mean, but you got to think under a minute 45. I mean, I bet if you told him like, hey, with a minute 45, you'd be down 8 points in the field house.
Yeah.
With the ball in you guys' hand for a chance to make a play. Will you take those odds? I mean, dude, that's big time, dude. Obviously, like you said, having that feeling of having a teammate. I got to kind of experience that a little bit with Aaron Miles in the G League with the Santa Cruz Warriors. I mean, it's an unbelievable feeling. And, you got to see your roommate, man, like go like that game could have, man, all it takes is a bucket, a steal, a turnover, or I mean,
just linger around,
yeah.
Just stay around,
man.
That's right. Keep it to single. If you can keep it to 3 possessions, I always call it like plateaus, right? It's 7, it's 13, it's 19. If you can keep, and there was times there where I thought, man, this game could get out of hand, and then all of a sudden they punch back, and that's a great sign of a team that doesn't lay down. For a first-year head coach to have his guys playing as hard as and I mean, a lot of his guys played 30 plus minutes. He had Deshaun Schwartz played all 40, so I mean his bench is pretty limited. And they had a couple guys out with contract tracing, but still, really, and there were a lot of Mizzou fans watching that game too. There's a lot of Mizzou fans that are watching a lot of George Mason games. So fun one to cover, and I'm glad that they were able to get Kansas scheduled. That's a great game for them to play.
That was, yeah.
Let's
it's going to be fun to see how far and how he can keep developing that team, because they're going to be a team that nobody wants to play. They're going to be a team that nobody wants to play.
I mean, that's a good league too. George Mason is a good basketball school, in that Virginia area. Kim is from Washington, D.C., from Baltimore, but in that D.C. area. He knows that D.C. area well, but he's from Baltimore. But, just to have that, it's almost a homecoming for him.
Yeah, it is.
But, he just knows that area so well. And then for him to go and beat Maryland, that is a big time statement in terms of that region. That's a big win for him. And Kim's already proven himself as a recruiter. He's done that at Colorado. He's done that at Tennessee. I have no issue. I mean, I don't think he's going to have any problem in terms of that part of it. But I also think, he's got a knack to develop, and that he knows how important, developing skill and developing players and people and that culture. He is all about that. And that's why I think the sky is the limit. I think he's just trending so high as a head coach to be, 33 years old and be a head coach at George Mason is a big deal. So very proud of my teammate for sure. But let's switch gears. Let's talk about Mizzou. They lose to Kentucky. Their first game out here in SEC play. They were without Konzo Martin, as we talk more about COVID implications and protocols without the head coach, but had all their guys. They get beat handedly. Missouri did keep it close in the first half at Kentucky, by the way, in Lexington. Cornell Mann did a very good job as an interim, head coach. I thought he did a very nice job. I thought they started pretty well to be in that game, but it was one of those games, Jeff, where if Missouri had a chance, it was going to have to be ugly. And I worry that that's what we're going to be talking about a lot with this team is if Missouri's going to have a chance to win, it's going to have to be ugly. There's going to have to be multiple turnovers. It's going to have to be missed shots and taking charges and just making the game as ugly as possible.
Muddy it up, yeah.
And you're going to have to try to be in the 50 to 60 range of a game. And Kentucky got up to 83. And if a team's going to score over 80 points, Missouri's going to have a tough time winning. The positives of this game, Jaron Coleman, we haven't talked about enough. He's been in and out of the lineup. He was out for a couple of games, but he has played well for Missouri. Against Illinois, he had 15 points, played well. Had 10 against Kentucky off the bench. So he's given them a little bit of a lift, but it was good to see Trevon Brazile start for Missouri. And I think that is a good sign. For Missouri, they got to play some of these young players. Anton Berkshire started. I think that's a good move. We know what this team is. It's a team that's going to struggle, and they got to find a way to develop some of their young core talent And you got to try to get the most out of putting guys and see what you got. I think that's the biggest thing. See what you got. Kobe Brown struggled. He was in foul trouble. And when Kobe Brown's in foul trouble, and I think he played 24 minutes, 0 for 3 from 3, 2 for 9 from the field, Missouri's going to have a tough time winning. So not the way you want to start league play. Missouri's now lost 2 in a row. They host Mississippi State on Wednesday, and they also host Alabama on Saturday. So they got 2 games at home. Hopefully you'll play better on your own floor, but still a struggle right now for Mizzou.
Yeah, and I mean, you said it best. You can't go wrong when you start to focus on some of those young guys, because they're young and you never know, because they're growing. You never know when a young guy's going to get it, when something's going to click. And like you said, you got to start preparing those guys for next year as well too. Obviously, putting the main focus on this year and not jumping ahead to next year, but getting ready for whether it's the Big 12 conference, because I think any school, as long as you can develop, like, to me, my mindset is like, hey, no matter where we're at in the conference, if we win the Big 12 conference, I mean, we go into the dance. I mean,
right.
I mean, we go into the dance. So, as a coach, you want to make sure those young guys are developing, because you never know, once they get their chance and once they, feel like they can go and get some confidence and some repetition, the sky's the limit. And I think Missouri's definitely at a chance right now to do that. And you mentioned it, muddy up the games. Hey, ain't nothing wrong with that. Yep. There's nothing wrong with that. Hey, you know what? In today's game, a win is a win, whether you muddy it up or you try to play a fast style play of a game. I'm sorry, at the end of the day, those coaches aren't, out to please. They're not out to please the fans and give the fans what they want. If we got to muddy it up and make this game in the 50s or 60s, low scoring game, hey, then that's what we got to do to win. But I know Missouri's trying to figure it out. And, what you want to make sure that, they continue to do is get better each and every game.
Some of those details too, Jeff, when you look at some of these box scores, and I think you don't want to fall in love with the stats or analytics. You also want to evaluate it with your eyes, what you're seeing. But when you look at the numbers, I mean, Missouri's 33% from the field, 20% from 3.
Yeah,
that's not going to get it done. But then also, it's not just the field goal percentages and the shot making. It's also they were minus 14 on the glass. Got dominated on the glass.
Yeah.
A lot of that is athleticism and size. And then they were plus 10 in terms of fouls. This team's got to stop fouling. They got to learn to play defense, be solid. And I think that can happen with teams that, are losing or have a big deficit. They start bad habits. And I think that's the hardest part as a coach is, you got to find a way to really have that discipline and teach that as the season goes along of, hey, look, we have to continue to stay disciplined and be a team that, feasts on habits, does the right things, plays defense without fouling, boxes out, those type of little details, right? We've talked about this before. It's just attention to detail stuff.
That's all
and when
it
you
is.
have a young team, you got to be teaching that all the time.
Yeah,
because
they want to get
exactly. They want to go off script. They want to go try to get the game with scoring, leads to bad decisions, and all of a sudden you can just see it be compounding mistakes, and that's what gets you in trouble. And if you want to have a chance to grow and improve, it's going to have to be the details, and it's going to have to, not try to go get there. It's 2 points and 3 points and 1 point for a free throw, right? It's one possession at a time. You can't just go get the game. It's a 40-minute game. Those things can really linger, I think, with young guys. That can ultimately be a problem. I did want to acknowledge too, on the Mizzou side, we got to give a shout out to Robin Pinchton and the Mizzou women's basketball team for their upset victory against number 1 South Carolina last week at Mizzou Arena. Unbelievable win. Missouri had multiple players out with COVID, including their best player, Asia Blackwell. But to win at home in overtime, Haley Frank was great.
Down some soldiers. Oh, wow.
Yeah. Lauren Hansen was great, had the game-winning bucket. Robin Pinchton has been at Mizzou for many years now, and she's to see where the Mizzou women's basketball program is to when I was in school in 08 to 12 to where it is now. Robin has done such an incredible job Sophie
awesome.
Cunningham probably lit a fuse onto the program and gave them 4 great years. But Asia Blackwell, a lot of these, Haley Frank, a lot of these players that have come after Sophie are kind of carrying the torch. And Mizzou is making some noise, I think, in the SEC this year. They're 13-2 now. So we got to give some love to the Mizzou women's basketball program, doing a great job. And a big shout out to Robin Pinchton as well.
Hey, you got to give credit when credit is due, man. Hey, I give a shout out to Mizzou women as well too. That's always good, man. When you can knock down a number one seed team and do it at your own crib as well too. So, and be short some soldiers as well too. I mean, wow, that makes it even more historic. So, shout out to Mizzou women's basketball squad for that win.
It was a big moment for Mizzou fans. It's rare too, Jeff, to like Mizzou women's basketball in general. You don't really see a ton of upsets like you do on the men's side.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think it's great for the women's game too to see some of these upsets, because it's, you don't see them a lot. And so for Mizzou to do that shorthanded, that was pretty impressive, and they got a lot of love, and they deserved it. So I was really happy to see that for them. Good way to close the year for them, and they've been dealing with some things off the floor like everybody has with COVID, but for them to win that game was pretty big. So, Jeff, we'll let you get out of here. It's good to connect and catch up. Been too long. Happy New Year to you and your family, and we'll look forward to the week ahead. Kansas goes to Oklahoma State, Missouri at home for a couple, Mississippi State, Alabama, and we will catch up next week and we'll break it all down. Big thank you to Tucker Franklin running the operation. We'll see you guys next week.
It's like the DJ.
DJ Tucker, let's go.